So what really makes a city lost, it's more than just, vanishing off a map, isn't it?
Definitely. It's about the stories, the people.
Hmm.
An entire civilization fading away until, maybe by chance, maybe through hard work, we find it again.
Right. And that moment of rediscovery, pulling back the curtain on something forgotten, I know that's what fascinates you. Welcome to the deep dive.
Uh-huh.
Today, we're exploring these incredible lost cities, places swallowed by time, by sand, by conflict, and what finding them again really tells us.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of really interesting sources guiding us today. We're
Yeah.
pulling from excerpts of Lost Cities of the World, Tales of Abandoned Civilizations, which gives a good overview,
Okay.
and also looking at Vanished Civilizations, The Hidden Secrets of Lost Cities and Forgotten Peoples by Reader's Digest. That one's great because it's packed with illustrations, photos, maps. It really helps visualize things through the artifacts and reconstructions.
Sounds perfect. So, our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is to really dig into the most fascinating bits about these places. Like, where were they? Who lived there? Why did they disappear? And what does it all mean for us looking back?
Exactly, unpacking their stories.
All right, let's jump in. First stop, modern-day Syria and the city of Ebla, a place we didn't even know existed until, well, basically luck struck.
That's right. Ibla, the site, is Tel Mardik now. It was found back in the 1960s by an Italian archaeologist, Paolo Mathieu. He was working there for a while.
Okay.
But the really big find came later, in 1974. Mathieu's wife was exploring a collapsed wall, and she found, well, it turned out to be the oldest cuneiform library ever discovered. Just incredible luck.
Wow. Just stumbling upon that thousands of years of history right there. What was actually on these clay tablets? What did they tell us?
Well, it wasn't just random stuff. These were organized archives.
Mm.
And interestingly, they were written in two languages, Sumerian, which we knew, and this completely new Semitic language, Ebelite. Nobody knew about it
A
before.
whole new language. Amazing.
Yeah. And the content, Cho Ibla was a major player. The
Yeah.
tablets talk about trade, diplomacy,
Yeah.
connections all over Mesopotamia, Egypt, even out towards the Mediterranean.
So Ebla wasn't some isolated place. It was right in the thick of things.
Absolutely. A crucial hub, basically. Trading goods, exchanging ideas. It must have been quite influential.
So this chance find completely rewrote our understanding of that period in the region. But what happened? How did such an important city end up lost?
Well, the sources point towards the Hittites. They were a major power, and it seems they destroyed Ebla around 1600 BCE.
Ah, conquest.
Yeah, another reminder of how empires rose and fell back then, and sadly that instability continues. Access to the site itself has been restricted since 2011 because of the conflicts in Syria.
Right. It's tough when present-day problems stop us from learning about the past. Okay, let's shift gears. From a city found by chance to one that lived mostly in legend for centuries. Troy. Everyone knows Troy from Homer, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Iliad. For the longest time, people thought Troy was just that, a myth, a setting for epic poems.
But then people started wondering, could it be real?
Exactly. In the 19th century, archaeologists started thinking, well, maybe there's some truth to these stories.
And that's where Heinrich Schliemann comes in. He was the one who really went looking for it, wasn't he? Tell us about his work. It was a bit controversial, I gather.
Oh, very much so. Schliemann was obsessed with Homer. He was convinced the poems were basically historical fact. So in 1868, he starts digging at this place called Hisarlik in Turkey.
And he found things.
He found a lot of things, especially in one layer, which he called Troy II. He found fortifications, artifacts, and this incredible stash of gold, jewelry, Priam's treasure, he called it. He was absolutely convinced he'd found the Troy from the Iliad.
But there's always a but in archaeology, isn't there?
Huh? Often, yes. Later research, more careful digging, showed that Schliemann's Troy II was actually way too old, like several centuries before the likely time of the Trojan War.
Ah, okay. So he found a Troy, just not Homer's Troy.
Pretty much. But his work was still hugely important. He proved there was a major, ancient city at Hisarlik. Maybe not exactly the one from the epic, but a significant place nonetheless.
And what do we know about the actual city he found?
Well, it was definitely a key player in late Bronze Age trade around the Aegean.
Yeah.
As for why it eventually fell, the sources suggest a mix of things. Fire, definitely earthquakes, and probably multiple battles over time. It wasn't just one single event, it seems.
Okay, so from myth to a complex reality. Now let's head back east again, to Mari, also in modern Syria, over on the Euphrates. This one's different, known for maybe being one of the first planned cities.
Yes, that's a really fascinating thing about Mari. It was thriving way back, starting around 2900 BCE. And unlike cities that just sort of grew organically, Mari seems to have been laid out intentionally.
Why would they do that so early on?
Location, location, location. It was right on the Euphrates, a massive trade highway. Plus, they controlled canals, which were vital for farming in that dry area, but also for shipping goods. Managing all that probably required, or at least encouraged, some serious organization and planning right from the start.
Makes sense. Control the water, control the trade. You need a plan. What did they actually find there? What did this planned city look like?
The digs revealed a really impressive place. There's a huge royal palace over 300 rooms. That points to a pretty complex government and society.
300 rooms. Wow.
Yeah, and like Ebla, they found thousands of clay tablets, these ones in Akkadian. More evidence of trade, diplomacy, administration. The artifacts suggest a really cosmopolitan culture, influenced by all its connections, a real international city for its time.
But like Ebla, too, it faced destruction and modern problems.
Exactly. Mari was destroyed, quite famously, by Hammurabi of Babylonia around 1760 BCE. And yes, sadly, like Ebla, the site has suffered a lot of damage and looting since 2011. Access for researchers is extremely limited, which is just heartbreaking when you think about what else we could learn.
It really is tragic. Okay, let's travel west now, out to the Aegean Sea, to the Greek island of Santorini. We're talking about Akrotiri, right? The Minoan city buried by a volcano.
Akrotiri, yes. An absolutely incredible site. It was found in the 1860s, buried under meters of volcanic ash.
From the big Thera eruption, the one that created the caldera.
That's the one, a truly massive eruption. And the archaeologist Spyridon Marinatos, a big name in Greek archaeology, he proposed this really influential theory that this eruption didn't just bury Akrotiri, but it also triggered the collapse of the whole Minoan civilization on nearby Crete.
Is that theory still accepted?
It's still debated. The timing, the exact impact, scholars argue about the details, but the eruption was undeniably catastrophic for Akrotiri, and paradoxically, that destruction preserved it incredibly well.
Right, like Pompeii, but much older. So the ash preserved everything. What did we learn about Minoan life there?
The preservation is stunning. You can see multi-story houses still standing. Some even had indoor plumbing systems, really advanced for the Bronze Age.
Plumbing?
Yeah, and the frescoes. Beautiful paintings on the wall showing people, animals, rituals, landscapes. They give us this amazing window into their world, their art, maybe their beliefs.
Did they find bodies, like in Pompeii?
Interestingly, no.
Yeah.
No human remains found, which strongly suggests that people had some warning and managed to evacuate before the really bad phase of the eruption hit.
Smart move. So a sophisticated trading town, part of the Minoan network, but any writing?
That's the mystery. Akrotiri was clearly an important Minoan trade hub in the Mediterranean, but unlike Mari or Ebla, no significant written records have turned up there. We see this complex society, beautiful art, advanced buildings, but silence in terms of their own words. It just adds to the enigma. It really does. Okay, for our last stop on this journey through lost cities, let's head to the Indus Valley. We're talking about Mohenjo-Daro, this incredible engineering marvel.
Yes, Mohenjo-Daro. A part of the Indus Valley civilization, or Harappan civilization. This was a huge civilization, flourishing around 2500 to 1700 BCE, so contemporary with Mesopotamia, older than the Egyptian New Kingdom.
And Mohenjo-Daro itself was discovered when?
In 1922. And what immediately struck archaeologists was the city planning. It's incredibly meticulous, laid out on a grid pattern. Clear zones for houses, for industry, for workshops, just remarkable organization for that era.
A grid plan way back then, that implies a lot about their society, doesn't it? What else was impressive about it?
Well, there's the Citadel area, built up on a high platform. It had big public buildings, a large pool, often called the Great Bath, maybe for rituals. There were also assembly halls and large granaries for storing grain.
Okay.
But maybe the most impressive thing technically was their drainage system. Really sophisticated underground drains and sanitation throughout the city, far ahead of its time. So amazing planning, amazing engineering. Any massive temples or palaces like in Egypt or Mesopotamia?
That's another interesting point. Not really. There aren't the kind of monumental stone structures, huge temples or grand palaces that you see in other ancient civilizations. And it makes you wonder about their political and religious structures. Were they different?
And like Akrotiri, there's a mystery with the writing, isn't there?
Exactly. The biggest mystery, perhaps. The Indus script. We have thousands of examples, mostly on small clay seals, but nobody's deciphered it. We just can't read it.
So frustrating. All those potential insights locked away.
It really is. So we have this incredibly advanced urban culture, amazing planners and engineers, but their language, their specific beliefs, their history written in their own words. it's still largely a blank slate. The grid, the drains, though that suggests a strong central authority focusing on public works and order. Quite different from some other places.
Yeah, fascinating contrast. So we've looked at Ebla, Troy, Mari, Akrotiri, Mohenjo-Daro, quite a diverse group. As we sort of wrap up our tour, what are the big themes connecting these lost and found cities?
Well, a few things really stand out. First, just the different ways they became lost.
Mm.
Abla found by chance, Troy shifting from myth to reality, Akrotiri buried suddenly, Ebla and Mari deliberately destroyed. It's not one single story.
Right.
And the reasons they were abandoned or destroyed are just as varied. War, natural disasters, maybe economic collapse or social changes we don't fully grasp yet.
And archaeology is key to finding them again, obviously.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's decades of careful digging.
Hmm.
And what we find, the artifacts, the buildings, tells us so much about daily life, how people worked, ate, prayed. Like the Reader's Digest book really focuses on. It makes them human again.
Yeah, it brings them to life.
But we also see the fragility, the impact of modern conflict, like in Syria, threatening these ancient sites. And of course, the ongoing mysteries, the scripts we can't read, the languages we're just beginning to understand. There's still so much we don't know.
So really, each city is like a unique window onto the past, showing us both human ingenuity and how easily things can be wiped away. They're pieces of our shared story, right? Showing that cycle of rise and fall.
Precisely. And you have these real aha moments, like realizing Troy wasn't just a story, or seeing the sheer scale of planning in Mari and Mohenjo-Daro. It's mind-boggling even now.
Yeah.
And Akrotiri, that snapshot of Minoan life, preserved so perfectly, just connects you across thousands of years. Archaeology can really do that.
You really can. And hopefully for you listening, wanting to get that deep knowledge quickly but thoroughly, this dive into these lost cities has done just that, giving you a real sense of their mysteries and legacies.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe one last thing to think about, a takeaway. Consider our own cities, our world today.
Yeah.
What parts of our lives, our buildings, our digital world even might just vanish one day? What will future people digging through our remains make of us? What stories will our ruins tell or fail to tell?
That's now.
Well, it's something to think about, isn't it?